Hello, everyone. My name is Denis King, and I'm the CEO here at Solace. We're here again at our EDA Summit, and I'm super excited to be joined by the Chief Product Officer from Software AG, Stefan Sigg. Hello, Stefan. How's it going?
Welcome. Thank you. I'm good.
So, Stefan, we're in this COVID period. How's the family? How are things at home? How are things in Germany going?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. Luckily, we are healthy, and that's the most important thing of all.
Yeah, of course. It's been a difficult year for everybody, Stefan, and I think we're slowly moving out of this. So I'm excited to see what the summer brings. But I'm super excited to have you here. I'm super excited to be talking about event-driven architecture, and I think it's we have a wonderful audience here to go through this detail today. So why don't we start with a simple question? I think people might want to know a little bit more about your background, Stefan. How you got started at Software AG, your role, and how you got into the role that you're in today.
Okay, so yeah, let's start with the background. So by education, I'm actually a mathematician. You can tell that from the pictures that I have above me. So somewhere late in the high school, I really fell in love with math, and I went to university, graduated, did my PhD, and then after that, I kind of woke up in the ivory tower and said, "Where am I?" So then I decided to go for also real life, and that was quite a difficult decision. But anyhow, then somebody recommended to me that there was a great company out there by the name of SAP, and I went there, and they hired me as a software engineer. So I became I learned how to program over there. Then I grew bigger and bigger in management of the product side of the house. So I was running a few SAP products. For example, SAP Business Warehouse from the ground, and then later SAP HANA, the database, and then my recent time at SAP, I was running the SAP Analytics portfolio for them. And then somebody then phoned me up and said, well, there is a great opportunity to become a management board member of Software AG, and there you can, have a great opportunity to maybe even more so fulfill, your thoughts, your ideas, your innovation. And I looked at that, and I was very excited about this. So 4 years ago, I joined Software AG as a Chief Product Officer, and I'm really enjoying it. And because there's a lot of great customers over there, and there's a lot of opportunities in the future, I'm sure we talk about that later. So otherwise, I'm married. We have a 14-year-old boy. I consider myself a slow swimmer. My boy is a fast swimmer. And if I'm feeling really, let's say, I need some rest and I need to have some recreation, I still read some math books, as weird as it sounds.
Yeah, Stefan, that's a great background, and knowing your background from SAP and the Software AG, you've been in the integration space, you've been in the API space, you've certainly seen event-driven architecture for a long period of time. So I think this is going to be a very, very exciting discussion. So, before we jump into the details here, I think others might want to know a little bit more about yourself. So what I'm doing with all my Fireside chats is digging into some lightning round questions. So we'll start with the first one. What is your favorite book?
Well, let me name two. Connecting to my math background, there's a great book by Edward Frankel by the name of Love and Math. Wow. And then, of course, I have my favorite German book. I'm German, obviously, by Thomas Mann. It's The Magic Mountain.
That's great. So what is your favorite movie?
Okay. So movie-wise, I would say it's a difficult choice. The Blade Runner, original version, of course.
Good one, yeah.
And then maybe Manhattan by Woody Allen, I should name.
So what's your favorite food? I'm sure there's something German in there.
Favorite food? Yeah, I guess it's actually also at this period of the year, it is definitely white asparagus with the veal schnitzel.
Yeah, thanks for that lightning round, Stefan. And so, we have a pretty big audience out there. And, while Software AG is a pretty large company, not everybody's familiar about Software AG in the background, and Software AG is a leader in many different areas, specifically in the API management space and integration. Could you give us a bit of background on who Software AG is and some of the areas you guys play?
Well, Software AG actually one of the software companies that have been around for a lot of time. So we are, we celebrated our 50th birthday last year, or maybe even the year before, so in 19, yeah. So 50 years around, that says you something. So clearly we have done something wrong in 50 years of software, delivering software. So what we're doing right now is really about, helping customers to become what we call a truly connected enterprise. So what does it mean? We really take care about connectivity in all kinds of dimensions between systems, application, services, APIs, devices. Well, that's a fairly new interpretation of connectivity and integration about devices. So that leads us into the world of IoT, and also processes. All that in the cloud, on-prem, and on the edge. And that is, we recently also augmented that with a specialized way of doing analytics. So a specialized way of doing process analytics by the name of process mining, and also a specialized way to do industry analytics, especially on time series data. So our major product brands being Web Methods for the iPaaS and API management and microservices world. It is Cumulocity for IoT. It is TrendMiner for time series analytics, and Aris for process excellence and process mining.
So thanks for that, Stefan. And diving in a little more of the details, you and I have had lots of conversations about the composable enterprise, hybrid integration platform, which is a lot of the Gartner speak. And, Software AG has a big presence with integration, specifically around Web Methods. And, I just wanted to ask you specifically, where do you see the integration market right now? And do you feel integration is mature? Even though it's been around a very long time, it is evolving, and it constantly seems to be evolving. So what's your point of view on the maturity of the integration market?
I think it's a mature space, yes and no. I mean, it is yes, because technology has been around for quite some time, and it really helped customers and companies to establish a good integration for their typically very heterogeneous system landscapes in their data centers between apps and everything like that. But then it's also it's not mature in terms of the evolution of the cloud. So, cloud migration means that, companies are, migrating, big parts of their data centers into the cloud, and the whole integration is broken up. And also they are adopting new types of cloud SaaS services instead of maybe traditional on-premise services. So the whole system landscape is now totally mixed up with some components still on-premise, a lot of components in the cloud, and maybe then also new components being served from the factory floor, the edge. So this gives a totally new, if you want, in that sense, immature requirements of integration. And we have not talked about device integration that comes on top. And so we have been asking ourselves this question: so what is it? Given that we are an integration company, but what are topics that would even more widening our addressable market or our scope? And we ended up in looking at IoT, not so much as at Internet of Things, but more from the angle of integration of things. And we are now seeing very nicely that the worlds of integration and IoT are very nicely converging along the way, also with analytics and API management.
Yeah, I think, Stefan, that's very similar to how we see the world. Whether you're looking at IoT or whether you're looking at APIs or integration, it seems like everything comes back to an integration problem. And as we watch edge computing and edge become more common, as we see the evolution of 5G, I think we're also going to see integration evolve again into the future. So, specific to that point, where do you see integration evolving to? What's the future of integration, Stefan?
So I think in the old days, what was typically the case that we offered API management as a sidekick of integration, and in the recent years it turned around. I mean, it's more and more API-led integration, API-driven scenarios that we are seeing. of course, I said it already, the impact of the cloud is just enormous. And one should also not forget the impact of the edge and IoT scenarios for integration. So the involvement is clearly very exciting. The involvement is towards, I guess I would say it's towards enabling companies to use their own data. Maybe it's new data they have, maybe generated by sensors or robots or machines that are much more modern. So new type of data, new type of non-ERP data, I should say. And there is a desirability and there is a push to build applications on top of this data, which is a different type of application than finance and HR. These are more, let's say, supply chain applications, production applications, production process applications. So laying the foundation for this maybe new breed of applications, this is something that we are very excited about. And I think this is where the whole topic is evolving to.
Yeah, I think you're right, Stefan. You know, as more newer applications like supply chain get developed, I think it's going to push this end-to-end story and this end-to-end need for integration to mature and evolve. So I think that's excellent. Now, you did mention APIs, and you know, first of all, congratulations to Software AG. I know you guys have been putting quite a bit of energy into API management, and you know, the latest Gartner report has you guys up and to the right, which is fantastic. So congratulations for that. But specifically to APIs, you know, APIs have been around a very long time now, and they're dominated by a RESTful request reply pattern. And we're seeing more and more that event-driven architecture is starting to participate and play a role in APIs. And we know APIs is what's driving a lot of enterprises. A lot of enterprises are API-led. So what's your take or what's your point of view on how much event-driven architecture or how events are participating, you know, in the API economy that we see so commonly in the enterprise?
Well, I think that you know, the topic of API is changing a lot recently. I mean, traditionally, you know, becoming an API-driven company was kind of a noble objective that really requires a bit of discipline and rigor in the organization. Qualities that, you know, you cannot always assume to be present in a highly competitive and volatile business environment. However, I should say, when it comes to tangible effects or tangible commercial impact on revenues or business model, all of a sudden, the API world is morphing from, let's say, nice to have to mission critical. So commercialization and monetization of, let's say, API-based offerings, and maybe even the APIs themselves, obviously is a necessary precondition for this development. And I should say, the notion of events are undoubtedly an accelerator of that, and maybe even also a precondition for this development.
So Stefan, you know, I couldn't agree more. Now, Software AG has a pretty wide variety of fairly diverse set of customers, and if you think about event-driven architecture and you know its evolution in the market, can you give us some examples of where you're seeing event-driven architecture in the market? Some of the use cases, some of the customer examples that you're starting to see where EDA is becoming a much bigger topic within the enterprise.
So I think whenever we talk about these kind of modern type of applications I was just alluding to, yeah, they do all have, or most of them do have, a certain proximity to real-time scenarios, or scenarios which are not entirely read-only, but there needs to be an action followed after something happens. So let me give you some examples. So from our customer base, for example, Schindler, a major player in elevators and escalators. So there we have a huge adoption of both IoT and integration for a let's say very focused condition monitoring and predictive maintenance scenarios. So, well, I know that these terms, condition monitoring, predictive maintenance, they come all over the place in the context of IoT. But this is a reality here. So we are equipping thousands and thousands and thousands of those elevators, with our device agent, on a certain gateway on top of the device, on top of the elevator. and enable all of a sudden a central monitoring of the well-being of that machine, and also, of course, optimizing service. Then, we can talk about logistics. DHL, one of our biggest customers, really end-to-end shipment tracking and quality assurance. Well, that doesn't work without events. This doesn't work on data that is 10 times copied and 50 times transformed. Yeah. So obviously, then maybe an example from manufacturing. We have in Germany a lot of manufacturing companies from the machinery space, and a lot of them are called hidden champions because nobody knows, or only few people know the company brand, but they are a world market leader in what they do. For example, Dürr, they are producing robots for car painting in the car manufacturing industry. And there we have really deployed a solution for real-time avoidance of scrap. So the system is helping the customers of Dürr to avoid that, for whatever reason, a car gets wrongly painted. In the past, that has been done by a human being. It has been checked by a human being at the very end of the painting process. And obviously, if he or she is detecting something, then already 5 or 7 or 10 chassis have already been wrongly painted. And of course, you want to avoid that. So you want to really cut it down to maybe 1 chassis, maybe even 0, if you apply predictive methods. And this is also being done right now. So just 3 examples of what we are doing, and you clearly can see this is going into a new world of integration, of API management, of events, and IoT. And it's very exciting to see that software applications are on a way to be reborn, maybe even on top of a new breed of data. Yeah. And that is complementing the world of HR and finance and CRM.
Yeah, we have a lot of the same common customers, and it is really incredible, Stefan, to see event-driven architecture really starting to generate the business value. Every enterprise seems to want to become more agile, and we're starting to see everybody wants data faster, and this is really driving event-driven architecture to the next level. So that's great. And you did mention edge specifically a little earlier on, and edge and 5G are becoming a very big topic. And while 5G continues to be a very network-centric discussion, we're starting to see some applications emerge around 5G. And I was just curious with Software AG, what's the point of view, and Stefan, what's your point of view on 5G, and how does Software AG view 5G as you guys look into the future?
Well, one aspect of 5G is clearly the acceleration of IoT type of innovation. So, it's incredible to see how much of existing industry is still based on quite old, let's say, landscape of machines and devices, where it is really either not feasible or not viable, to buy new machines or to equip everything. And those landscapes and those shop floors, the question is, does it pay off to invest new types of network infrastructure and all that? So 5G has the potential of leapfrogging many of those investments and still enable an existing environment to be connected to. Yeah. And we this is something which we are very much looking at, and we maybe one aspect is also that a whole bunch of our customers are actually taking our technology. So customers in the telco space, I should say, customers in the telco space taking our technology, white label it, and use it as a foundation for their offering in IoT specifically. And that is then also fired by 5G, because in the end, what the telcos are offering are is modern ways to equip things with a SIM card, right? So it's we are foreseeing 5G as being, as I said, a huge accelerator of innovation in spaces where it's difficult to invest into much infrastructure.
Yeah, Stefan, that's very interesting because Software G has a very mature stack where you guys have a very strong IoT story, you have a great integration story with WebMethods.io, and you have a great API management story. And so bringing those things together for 5G and Edge, I think is going to be pretty exciting. Now, could you talk a little bit about the strategy vision going forward for Software AG? Now, I don't want you to give away any of the trade secrets, but could you talk a little bit about the roadmap or some of the ideas you guys are thinking in the context of event-driven architecture as we move forward with Software AG?
So our philosophy, my philosophy is always, coming from the customer demand, from the customer cases, and work backwards, right, to technology. And not making the mistake of saying, here is the technology, here's the solution, where's your problem? But the other way around.
Right.
What I'm seeing clearly is that customer challenges and customer use cases are asking for event-driven architecture type of solutions, right? Mostly because, or most of the time, because they're coming from a real-time requirement or from a low latency requirement, or from many other angles. But it's clear that let's say the world, much of the world is moving from sending documents around the network to processing signals or events. Yeah, seems to be a technology which is addressing the much more, let's say, high frequency use cases that customer care about in modern environments, in very innovative environments you can think of. Yeah? So clearly driven by new types of customer demand that is out there.
Excellent. Well, listen, I got one more question for you, Stefan. It's more on the lighter side. We're just coming out of a very difficult year. People are, having a challenge to be connected. People are working from home. We've been in, more than a year now in COVID. There's all sorts of geopolitical challenges going on. There's lots of negativity in this world. So, Stefan, what is one thing that you're optimistic about?
Well, I'm always an optimist. There's a famous word from a famous mathematician. He said, "Only the optimists are proving the theorems." And there's probably the most difficult way these times to earn $1 million is proving one of those open problems. And I'm very optimistic that soon we will solve one of those problems. For example, the Riemann hypothesis, which is all about the distribution of prime numbers. So I'm very optimistic. But I won't earn the $1 million, that's for sure. I'm very pessimistic about this one.
Well, listen, Stefan, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here in our EDA Summit. I know you're a really busy guy and you're taking time out of your schedule, but thanks so much. I really look forward to getting over to Germany once we're all vaccinated later in the summer, so we can have a beer together. But until then, thanks again, and thanks for joining us here at our global EDA Summit.
Thank you for having me, Dennis. All the best.